A new era has arrived in harness racing New Zealand. April 14th, under the bright lights of Cambridge Raceway, at 8:55, history will be made. 9 hand-selected standardbreds from New Zealand and Australia are set to do battle for the massive purse of $900,000 in what's simply known as the race. There's a New Zealand Horse of the Year winner.
It's all Spankem and another Group 1 victory. Spankem won it.
A New Zealand Cup winner.
A confident soul and not a fear in the world. Self-Assured's won the Cup.
A Jules winner.
South Coast Arden and Natalie Rasmussen, 151.7.
A New Zealand Derby winner.
He has too much courage under fire. Krug and another Derby win. What a mighty animal.
And let's not forget our Australian friends. There's a Ladyship Mile winner.
But it's Stylish Memphis in front. She goes back to back. Stylish Memphis staves off Spellbound.
Also a Newcastle Mile winner.
That's MacDan. He's packing plenty. MacDan. MacDan wins the Newcastle Mile.
The field is set. It's time for the horses to do the talking. It's time for history to be made. This is the race. Hello everyone, history about to be made at Cambridge Raceway on Thursday evening, and we're all looking forward to it so much. And with the barrier draw that has now come out, there's so much talking to be had, and today I've got Craig Thompson and Brittany Graham from Australia, both of them to join us and talk through this fantastic concept. Craig Thompson, firstly to you, I guess firstly the draw coming out has just made it all the more interesting rather than having self-assured draw barrier 2 and 3 and we're looking at it thinking, well, who's going to run second and third? Now there's so much intrigue.
So much intrigue. Good morning to you, Matthew, and to you, Brittany, in Australia. I'm really looking forward to it. We needed this, Matt. We really did. We lost the Jules. New Zealand Cup is our pinnacle race, but we didn't get a lot of Aussies here in the last 10 years for our major event. What we've got is enormous Australian interest into the race on Thursday evening. In fact, a third of the field made up of Aussies. It adds so much to the race. The barrier draw, you're right. I think Saturday evening, the bookmakers were smiling. The connections are the favourites. They were frowning. I'm really looking forward to getting Brittany's analytical opinion on how this race is going to unfold, because there's so much gate speed, Matt. We'll touch on it, but well done to David Branch and his team. They got this race off the ground. I mean, we've seen it in Australia with the Everest. We've seen it with the dogs. Now we've got it in the harness game, and it's on our home track at Cambridge Raceway.
Brittany Graham, we could sit here and argue that Stylish Memphis is still a Kiwi. A little bit of Elter Orlando is still a Kiwi, but we're going to let you have these ones. You've got 4 coming over for the race. A great representation, and looking forward to having you here as well. So exciting, and from all reports from on your side of the Tasman, it's been well received also.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Great to be joining you for this preview. And as you alluded to, I think we're going to claim Stylish Memphis at this point in time. I'm not sure how much more of her you're going to see across that side of the Tasman. So we'll take her as one of our own. But we're really excited to have so much representation in this inaugural running. I must say, I'm a little bit jealous that New Zealand have got the jump on us with a slot race. We wanted one for quite some time. We haven't managed to get it up off the ground. But as you alluded to, Dave Branch and his team there at the Cambridge Club have taken this with both hands, and they're really running with it. And it's great to see us having an interest from a participant perspective, because everybody's talking about it. It's a bit of a quieter time here at the moment off the back of the Carnival of Miracles before Queensland, where we're hoping to see more Kiwis come over and join us. It's giving us something to be really excited about, and everybody's talking about it as well. So I'm just crossing my fingers that we can bring that first running trophy back to Australia come Thursday.
2,200 metres will be the trip. Let's take a look at the markets post the draw. Self-Assured remains as the favourite, $2.40. Mark Purdon in probably the only gate he did not want outside of the arm. $4.50 for South Coast Arden. A brilliant high-speed horse, but also a brilliant stayer at the same time. The Miracle Mile winner Spankem at $4.80, and Stylish Memphis off the inside. And yes, we will let Brittany Graham claim a little bit of that, although it is owned and trained by a New Zealander. Matthew Peden is going to come along very shortly, Craig Thompson, and have a chat to us about the market. What was your initial reaction post the barrier draw?
Well, when I looked at the barrier draw, Matthew, I actually thought they would have drifted the favourite considerably. I mean, he was 240 post the draw. The draw comes out and he gets the absolute worst barrier draw, and he gets barrier 8 and he's still 240. So I'm not sure how that works out. I can see the money coming for Spankem from a nice handy draw. Barrier number 2, we know is Gates, but he's got a good draw. It doesn't help the chances of South Coast Arden because so much inside him can move here. I think Bango would be pretty aggressive at some stage. He's at 450, but really, yeah, on self-assured, he's the key contender here. And I know there's a school of thought there'll be money from late in the piece. I'm not in that school. I think the 240 is too short. I think he should be 20% above what he is, Matt. I think he should be around that 280, 290 mark. We'll see what happens come Thursday night.
Okay, Matt Peden's along from the racing desk. Matt, what do you make of Craig's thoughts there around your pricing of self-assured?
Yeah, it's quite a contentious one, Matt. Hello, and good to be joining you as well. Look, you can't underestimate the amount of money that's going to come from the Australian influence in the market, particularly through totes. We'll have that commingled tote. So just the respect that Mark Purden gets when he jumps on the bike and has a favourite in a feature race is worthy of keeping a horse like him short, particularly with the preparation he's had in the lead up to the race.
What about the move so far, Matt? What can you give us? Has there been any smart money around any of these horses pre or post draw?
Look, up until now, they've left the top of the market alone. The money in the race post-draw has been with both Alta Orlando and Krug. Alta Orlando opened at $12. He closed at $21 pre-draw. Rock solid at $12, but there's obviously a bit of talk coming out of New South Wales that he'll be driven positively and may even look to hold up. So there's punters that are happy to be on him at $12 around Cambridge. The other one's Krug. We opened him up at $23. He closed at $17 pre-draw. And back into $15 now with actually a good bit of money for him. So there's a bit of confidence coming out of the Dalgety stable that he's ready to go.
Okay, what about on the night? What can we look forward to? There's obviously going to be a greater audience with the club deciding that a Thursday night is going to be the spot, shying away from your Friday and Saturday sort of punters. So we're going to have a good audience and they're going to be looking for the TAB to be putting up some sort of promotions. What are you going to have on offer for us?
We'll have the power plays that we've had going in the last few weeks, and they'll be heavily pushed. And we'll get together in the next day or two and come up with some head-to-head options, not head-to-head options, but some special options that we can try and promote across the meeting.
Matt, yourself, you're a good judge. You frame a lot of harness racing markets at the moment. Is there one that you're leading to if you take your bookmaker's hat off?
Yeah, Matt, I really like Spankem. I know he probably hasn't had the ideal preparation, but we know Mark Purden and Hayden Cullen can have a horse peaking on the night, and I think the draw will be a good thing for him. So, assuming Natalie will probably drive him, if she can get him in a good spot and have a good trip throughout, I think he's a bit of value at the 480.
Okay, $50,000 guaranteed pick 6 as well there. Thank you to Matt Peden for his thoughts, and no doubt we'll be getting some more information from the racing desk pre the big one, the $900,000 race by Grins. Well, David Branch is one man who has put his mind and soul into this, and what an effort it has been to get it off the ground. He must be absolutely thrilled. On Saturday night, the team caught up with him at Cambridge Raceway during the barrier draw.
Yeah, it's been a pretty long process. Sort of think back to December when we sort of had to decide, do we pick up the idea and run with it or what? So we obviously grabbed it from writing the conditions from scratch to all that sort of stuff. Fortunate that my dad's a lawyer, so we spent some of Christmas Day writing the rules and terms and conditions and all that stuff. Got that ready for early January and then went to the market for slot holders. So it's been a pretty big process, yeah.
How hard was it to get those slot holders?
I wouldn't say hard, but there were a lot of conversations and a lot of education because it's something that's so new. So, I mean, the 10 slot holders that we ended up with have been phenomenal, and there were a lot of talks, and some that didn't end up taking it. But yeah, can't thank those 10 that came on board enough, really.
10 down to 9, a little bit disappointing, but you still got 9 quality standardbreds going around.
Yeah, really disappointing, and we'll go away and we'll look at that condition for next year and see if there's something we could do with an emergency. Like we did discuss it and go through when we were building the race, and just sort of thought with the way the stake money was and the also ran money set out how it was, having an emergency waiting in the sidelines sort of didn't really make sense. But we'll reassess that, because ideally we want a full field and we want every slot holder to have a representative. So next year, so hopefully to $1 million. That's the aim. It's sort of what we've indicated to the slot holders, and personally I think we owe it to them to get the race up to that $1 million. So that's goal number one. From an event point of view, obviously hopefully no COVID restrictions. Go from we're hoping for a crowd of 1,500 this year. We'd like to get that to 5,000, 6,000 next year and have it a real good atmosphere. So we're limited to 200 capacity in each of the rooms, but with no limit on outdoor sizes. So we're hoping to get sort of 1,500 general admission. We're at about 500 now, but expecting those sort of last 1,000 to hopefully come in the coming days as the hype builds. Just really hoping for good weather. Everything crossed for that.
A very, very clever gentleman doing great things for harness racing all around Australasia with this fantastic incentive. Stay with us here on the preview show for the race by Grins. After this, we will take a look at some of the horses that hold the key to the race, particularly at the start. Runners 1 through 5, one of those being Krug for the Dalgety base. In the sort of the build-up, but as you say, it's been the hype around it, I guess, probably makes it a little bit more exciting for everyone involved.
Oh, very much so, because it's different with some Aussie contenders. We all love the Kiwi Australian contend. Bit rusty. Sorry. We'll just play. I'm out of practice. See it.
They'll cut out what they want out of it anyway.
See, I'm not famous, you see now.
I'm still rolling.
Okay, 3, 2. Welcome back to the preview show for the race by Grins. $900,000 on offer on Thursday night out of the Cambridge Raceway, and the most important part will be the start of the race, at least in the initial stages anyway. The finish is where it matters, but the initial point of the race is where a few questions are going to be answered, Craig Thompson. They start at the 2,200 metres. They have about a 250 metre run before they hit the first bends, and then they're 2 full circuits of the track. Who do you see leading into the first turn?
Yeah, Matthew, the way the barrier draws have come out here, Ultra Orlando from barrier 2, he's got great gate speed. We saw in his last 2 starts from the outside of the draw getting across them. Now, Stylish Memphis got crossed in the ladyship from a very similar draw, barrier number 1. So I think Ultra Orlando probably get her at the start. Spankem, we know the gate speed from the Miracle Mile. We saw it obviously in the New Zealand free-for-all. Crossed them from 6. We haven't seen him for a while using that gate speed, but I think it's still there, and we know Natalie's such a great gate driver. Mac Dan, well, of course, he led the Miracle Mile in a 25.8 lead-up time, Matthew, so he can leave the gate. An interesting statistic about him, he came to Auckland. They tried to punch him off the gate at Auckland. He couldn't hold Hot and Treacherous off the gate. Whether that was a right-handed thing, Matthew, I'm not too sure. We know him as a gate flyer. He's got a medium draw. He's not going back off the gate. And, of course, just note Ricky May will take the drive. And then South Coast Arden. I think he was more of a gate influence, Matthew. Had he drawn 1 to 5, I think an aggressive Brett Mangos would have seen him fire off the gate here. May not have the early toe of the Ultra Orlandos or the Mac Dans, but he loves to get into a dogfight. Barrier 7's got to make it tough for him. I think he's going to sit back, see what unfolds inside him. He's not going back, but he may initially not go forward either. So, a lot to talk about. Brittany, I'd love to bring your thoughts in here about this map that I'm showing up on screen at the moment. Ultra Orlando, do you see the influence from 2 being there?
I think it's a great draw for Ultra Orlando. He's such a fast horse off the gate, and he can really lead from anywhere. He's so commonly out wide at Menangle, and he manages to slingshot across and get across him. I think if MacDan had drawn inside him, that may have been the only query for him. But with Stylish Memphis drawn directly alongside him, I think that he'll find his way to the pegs very quickly. And then Jack Callaghan does have options from there on out. I can't see him leading this race. I think he's a much better horse off cover, and we saw that in his first 2 runs this preparation. I noted that trial of MacDan. He looked just a little bit lackluster off the arm, to be honest. I did notice, though, he had the open bridle on and he had a head check on, actually, which he hadn't worn in Australia. So maybe that was just for a balance and confidence aspect. And the fact that you alluded to the right-handed way of going probably confused him a little bit more so than anything else. But I do think if he's revved up, he can maybe make a play to make a position somewhere to slot in. I can't see him crossing Ultra Orlando, and the fact that he's probably a horse in this company that would hand up would suggest to me that Jack Callaghan wouldn't be overly keen to hand to him. So South Coast Arden is the interesting one. I think, despite the fact that it might look a little messy on paper, I think it gives Brent Mangos the options because he's got speed to his inside, and most importantly, he's going to know exactly where Self Assured is. So he could be the meat in the sandwich if things get interesting mid-race, and we know that he's capable of rolling the sleeves up. So I think it's a really interesting barrier draw, and it's going to generate a stack of pressure.
Okay, she's the first of 4 Bettor's Delights in the race. Stylish Memphis up the top of the book. Bred and raced here in New Zealand by Wayne Higgs, trained and driven by an ex-Kiwi in Jack Trainer, who started out his career here in New Zealand with the Crandalgetti stable. He now goes head-to-head with his ex-boss, with Krug off the inside barrier draw. From what you've seen of her, Brittany, is she capable of picking up a race like this?
I love this mare. I think she's been so excellent at Menangle. She's really made that track her own. Back-to-back feature mares races over the last few years at the mile as well. And on both occasions, she had to show that turn of foot that she's become so well known for. This was her performance when she was able to win that Queen Elizabeth II mile going back 5 or 6 weeks ago now. As I mentioned, she did have to burn up a little off the gate to hold her position. And I just don't think she let down as impressively as she had prior. Spellbound got quite close to her and she gave her a big head start. But I still thought the effort was excellent. And just the fact that she's got that barrier draw advantage, I can't see her doing a great deal early on. And from what I've seen of Cambridge, being on the fence is such a massive advantage that she's going to just be in prime position. She did have another run after that. She didn't get a spot in the Miracle Mile. She contested the Ainsworth free-for-all where she was second behind Zeus Bromack. And then I think the slot in the race may have come as somewhat of a surprise. She was having a little breather and then they had to pull her out of the paddock and get her ready for this race. She had a start at Menangle a fortnight ago. And despite the fact that she was beaten, I thought that the run was full of merit. Her last half, 53.5, 26 flat herself home. So I don't think that she could have got home a great deal better on that occasion. Now, this was the Ainsworth free-for-all under that deluge. It was horrific on this occasion, and she just couldn't quite get to Zeus Bromack. But I don't really know how much of a form line we can take out of this effort because just the conditions were so horrific, Matt. I think that we can give excuses for many of the horses.
Craig Thompson, you've seen a fair bit of Stylish Memphis. Where are you at with her?
Well, she was always going to draw barrier 1, and that was going to be a massive assist to her, Matthew. I love this mare. I don't think she's got the tactical speed probably to lead, but I don't think she has to exert too much energy from barrier 1. She can see what unfolds outside her. I think she'll get a nice run. Her last start run, Matthew, she was back last. Her sectionals were off the clock to get where she did. She's a good following mare. I think barrier 1 will suit her. She's an absolute top 4 player. She's one of those ones, I think, at $14 or $12. You risk your $10 on her because you know you're going to get a lovely run on the fence. And as we know, Marker Peg's the place to be at Cambridge. If you can sit in the trail, you can certainly get up the passing lane and win. I think she's a factor. I think she's absolute top 4.
Brittany Graham, we remember Ultra Orlando as a raw talent when he was a 2-year-old over here in New Zealand. He's now back as a 10-year-old, still part-owned by Robert and Jenna Dunn. You're thinking he can cross the one horse early and therefore find him in a good position. If you were to hand up to one horse, is that horse MacDan?
I don't think so. I think he runs a risk if he does hand up to MacDan that he finds himself shuffled again. And he's got that speed to, I think, pick and choose who he does hand up. So, as you mentioned, you described him as raw. I describe him as quirky. He's a funny character still at 10 years of age. He has his tricks. I know that they have a handler basically have to run with him when he gets out onto the track to get him on his way. But Jack Callaghan knows him very well. The 20-year-old who works alongside Belinda and Luke McCarthy, who's coming across to drive Ultra Orlando. They've struck up a really good relationship and they seem to understand each other. He's had the 4 runs back from a spell, including 2 wins. He's been defeated at his last couple, but I don't think he's been disgraced. This was when Majestic Cruiser sat outside him just over a week ago now, over the 2300, and was able to gun him down. 153.8 for the 2300, and he let off a wide gate as well. There's no doubting his gate speed is his biggest asset, but I also think he's a much better horse following. I'm not sure if he's quite as genuine out in front, but he seems to come off a helmet and really savage the line. So it's in Jack Callaghan's court, I guess, who he hands up to if they decide to do that. But in my heart of hearts, I think they'll be looking for a trail in Thursday night's race.
Craig, Ultra Orlando for you?
He's got great gate speed. He can get across them, but I do think he's a better follower. 2,200 metres, finding the front, handing to the right one, whether that's maybe a Spankem or a MacDan, puts him in the play. He is a 10-year-old. Matt, we haven't seen him since New Zealand 2018 when he won here. His 4 years in Australia, when he left here, I thought he's going into no man's land. But, gee, he's just lifted. And I love the way that he's been competitive. As we see at the start, he's a funny horse. He can rip off the gate, but he does come back underneath you very quickly and he can settle very handy. So I think he's a top 4 player. I've actually put him on my top 3. Prior to the draw, he wasn't in the mix for me, but now he's drawn barrier 2 with the favourites out wider. I do like him, and he's at a good price.
The Miracle Mile winner, Spankem. There's not much of him, but he's won over $1 million. Natalie Rasmussen does the driving. He is one of the neatest horses you will ever come across. Is 1 run under his belt enough? He raced at Ashburton, finished 4th. Since then, he has been very bold in his most recent trial. Craig Thompson. Could he be the horse that comes in here and maybe surprises a couple with his 7-year-old legs?
Well, I think he is, Matthew. I really like him. I've actually selected him on top to win this race, and he wasn't my top pick prior to the barrier draw, but I think he's the big winner out of it. We know his gate speed. We've seen it in the Miracle Mile. We've seen it in the free-for-all. I loved his trial the other day, Matt. I clocked him at Auckland in that trial, and it was taken out by Self Assured. Now, trials don't mean a lot, but they ran a solid trial here, 2:37. So that's Self Assured in front, Hot and Treacherous to outside, MacDan in the green to the inside, and you can see little Spankem starting to pedal home quite nicely down the outside in the hands of Olivia Thornley. Now, this horse has been off the scene an awful long time. He ran home 155 in 55.3, Matt. I thought it was a lovely trial. He actually trialled with MacDan a fortnight earlier at Franklin as well. I thought he trialled equally as well as he did there. He's had 5 runs this time in, Matt. 1 race day start, the Legends Mile, and then 4 trials. I just love where he's drawn. We've got one of the best gate drivers in Australasia and Natalie driving. I think they'll be progressive off the gate. If he works forward and finds the front, I think the $5 is a fair price for him. I know we haven't seen him in the winner's circle for a long time, but he's a class act, and I reckon he's a real winning chance here.
Yeah, absolutely, and finding the line really well in that trial, like he did first up out of Ashburton as well. Well, during the week, we were lucky enough to go out and catch up with a few of our contenders, and the first of those that we get to have a look at today is Spankem. Mark Spankem, he's back. He's had 1 run. Why was he so far away from the races? What actually happened there?
He went to Australia and he got a bit of a bug there and got quite sick. So he spent a little bit of time when he came back to Auckland at Matamata Veterinary Centre there, and they got him right. But he'd lost a lot of weight in the interim, so he had a good break after that, and we built him back up, and then he came down to us, and so hence that was the reason he's been off the scene.
What did you make of his first up run over the mile at Ashburton?
Yeah, I was wrapped with that first up run. I thought he found the line really well, and obviously went into it quite big, so needing the run, and we were very happy with him.
What about since then, going into that trial? What was Olivia's report post that?
Well, he'd had a trial at Pukekohe before that, and then of course the other night, that was part of the reason I wanted to make it like a race, because I felt he needed it more than even the other two of the teams, and so it's worked out good for him. I think we'll see good improvement from him, and Olivia was very happy with his performance.
Do you feel as though he's as good as he was, say, when he was a Miracle Mile winner? Is he still as sharp?
Yes, I wouldn't say he's far away. Hard to know if he's just as good as he was then, because he was just really in a zone then leading into that Miracle Mile. But nevertheless, I think after Friday's run, it'll improve him quite a bit.
As a rival of yours in the race, would you be showing him respect if the run unfolded for him?
Yes, certainly. A lot's going to come down to the draw at Cambridge, and I think if you just want to be drawing sort of inside the five marble, and if he did that, well, I'd certainly have a lot of respect for him.
And that he has drawn barrier number 3, and self-assured Mark Purdon's drive drawing the outside. So respect from the master around one of his own horses with one of the greats, Natalie Rasmussen, on board. Well, the horse that will need to bounce back from his Australian form is Krug. Blair Orange and Cran and Chrissy Delgetty, the dual derby winner there he is with young Carter Delgetty. They've been set a task to pick him up off the canvas. If they can do so, there's no doubting his ability, Craig Thompson. Just a little bit of a tricky barrier draw though in 4.
That's why you're getting $18 for him, Matthew. Three-time Derby winner. He's a very good horse. I think he came back to New Zealand a very tired horse, Matt. He was excellent through that Cup Carnival at Addington. I mean, his junior free-fall run was exceptional. He ran good time there, as you can see him in front here with the likes of Classy Brigade and a couple of other open class contenders here. Need You Now. He was just too strong. This is when he's in the zone, when he's bullish, when Blair can drive him to the front and he puts a foot to the metal and he's off and gone. He then came to Cambridge up through January and he was really good, and then he had that campaign in Australia. And to be fair, Matt, I thought he was just okay over there, and I think he, as I said, he probably came back a little bit tired. Cran's had to freshen him up. It'd be a massive training performance if he can get him up and winning a race like this from barrier 4. But he has got the country's leading driver. I'd like to get Brittany's thoughts on this one, Matthew. Brittany, Krug, you've seen him in Australia. What did you make of the Australian form?
Quite interesting, Craig, because we've seen him twice now. I got to see him up close and personal during winter last year when he came across to Queensland, and then again at Menangle over their carnival. His fresh up runs for both of those campaigns, I think, were his best. When he came out and he smashed the track record at Redcliffe in the Derby, and then he broke 150 first up at Menangle sitting parked as well, and then he progressively got a little worse as that Menangle campaign went on, and I think his last run was well below his best. So I like that he's coming into this race fresh, but from a betting perspective and a form analysis perspective, it's just hard to get a line on him. You would expect that he'll be happier back in his surroundings of New Zealand, and the fact that both Cran and Carter and also Chrissy can all get their hands on him and get him back to his best. But it's just hard to analyse him, particularly in this grade. We have to remember that he's just a technically early season 4-year-old now, and he's really taking this next step up against the big guns. So I like that he's fresh, but I'm just not sure where he gets to from the draw as well. I think it's a little bit tricky for him, and Blair's going to have his work cut out for him from there, I'd say.
Let's get a lead from his co-trainer, Cran Delgetty, around the son of Better's Delight. Cran, first of all, excitement levels, $900,000 race. How are you feeling?
Well, a lot of good feelings. Well, the dividends are very good at 900, and plus it's something different. And as you know, we'd all love to have the jewels back, of course, like everyone does. But this is actually a very similar concept because it's something that's been talked about well before the event, many weeks before the event. So it's actually self-advertising.
Cran, a bit different with the Aussies coming as well?
Oh, very much so. In all sport, we love that when the Kiwis and the Aussies come together, it's hype before it even starts, whatever event it is. And to bring them in, it's given it the real big flair, and it's great for all concerned.
Looks like a good race shaping up with the quality involved as well. You've got Krug lining up in there. What did you make of his Australian trip?
We had a variety of assumptions of the race. When he first went over there, he was enormous in his first start, and he raced a fast time, and he sat outside the leader, and he won very good. And then he had a wee bit of bad luck in the middle. One backed into him halfway through the race, and then in the Chariots of Fire, it was a very aggressive race, and they went some crazy time early, and he sort of got a bit gassed, and then he wasn't quite as good in the last start. So we've had all of above, but he's brand new again now.
Okay, so coming back to Auckland, did he just take a little while to find his feet again?
No doubt about it. He knew had a campaign. Menangle, it's quite common knowing that when they've come out of Menangle, they're sort of on their behind for a day or three afterwards. And so I suppose we've been cruel to be kind. We've put a harder base under him, and so we're just pampering him now and cuddling him now and bring him into this big day.
For many years as a horse trainer, you've obviously had a guide leading into races like, Cup Week. You try and do the same thing leading into it. But this is a bit different, isn't it? We're lobbed in the middle of autumn with a view to getting horses ready. Everybody's probably taking a bit of a different approach.
Oh, very much so. The rule book's the book you never find, and what you're supposedly meant to do going in the event, who knows? But it's just assessing your own article at the chosen time. We'll get 1,000 bits of advice, and we'll try to give ourselves advice too, but we just assess it by day, because to try and even explain to the owners and clients what I'm trying to do several weeks out, and I change a lot, and the horse tells me what to do different. So it's a gut feel a lot of the time, experience and highs and lows, and so. Yeah, so to answer your question of coming into it, as you well know, the whole 10 are coming in with totally different campaigns. They're coming from different directions, they're getting different approaches. So come the late afternoon of the 14th, we'll either be hero or zero.
Blair Orange booked?
Yes, we can't wedge him out of the cart. So if we wanted one particular driver, he's the whiz kid at the moment, and we'll try and tan them together.
You'll probably fly under the radar a little bit in the market with Self Assured, obviously, going so well at the moment. Do you feel as though you've got the right sort of horse, though, to be taking out a $900,000 race?
Well, he's got a pretty good CV. I think when he won the Auckland Derby, the Great Northern, he put up a great effort, and when he won the Derby, he drew the outside of the front row over 2,600 here at Eddington. So it's not as if he can't do it, it's just me getting him sort of at tip-top on the particular day.
We'll see you at Cambridge.
I'll be there, rearing to go.
Yes, our dominant 3-year-old from last season, looking to match it with the big guns. Krug will head around as runner number 4. Number 5 in the book is Mac Dan. He will be in the Ian Dobson Cullen breeding colours with his great mate Ricky May aboard for the Mark Purdon and Hayden Cullen stable. We'll come straight to you about him. Brittany, is he the right sort of horse to be taking this out, or do you see him maybe being just a little bit vulnerable at the 2,200 if he works hard early?
I don't think there'll be any queries with the longer trip, Matt. We've seen him, particularly in Victoria, they do quite a lot of middle distance racing, and he's taken on some longer distance events as well. But as you alluded to, it's probably just how much work he has to do to find a position come Thursday night. This is a Newcastle mile. Now, I was with him on this occasion, but I certainly didn't expect him to be out in front doing the work from that position. He was able to hold Bonsell Benjamin quite easily on this occasion, and that's no easy feat. He's probably one of the quickest horses off the arm in Australia, and he did it quite well within himself. Then he came out and franked that early speed in the Miracle Mile when he was able to cross quite convincingly on that occasion as well. So no doubt his early speed is key. I personally don't think that he has enough speed to cross Ultra Orlando, though. I would say they're quite comparable in their early pace. And you mentioned that trial. He was probably just a little bit, as I mentioned earlier on, lackluster off the arm. And whether that was because he didn't have the hood on to sort of have him completely sharp, or they weren't looking to really buzz him off the arm, that remains to be seen. But I do think he has the early speed to find a position. I don't think that position will be out in front, though. But no doubt he's going to be a player in that first 100 or 200 metres to the first turn.
Craig Thompson, your judgment of Mac Dan?
Yeah, what I've seen in New Zealand, I'm not too sure to what to make of him, Matthew. I think his run in the Miracle Mile, he showed great gate speed. I think it was a 25.6 lead first quarter, and it may have taken the edge off him at the end of that Miracle Mile. He couldn't go king of swing. Newcastle Mile was a little bit different because once he got across him at the start, there was that slow middle quarter, and he got away with it, and then he kicked at the top of the lane. Thought his Hunter Cup run was quite good. He sat through the fence there, and he made good ground. I think he needed to draw inside Ultra Orlando. I think that was the key to this race, Matthew. I, like Brittany, don't think he'll probably get across from there, and then Ricky May's got to make a decision what I do from there. But he deserves a spot in the race. He's a very, very good horse. We saw that obviously in the Newcastle Mile, and he adds so much to it. But he is a drifter in the market, Matthew. He got as short as $6 in New Zealand. You can get double that now.
Well, one horse that hasn't drifted in the market is Self Assured. He is amongst the final 4 horses for the $900,000 race by Grins, and we'll be taking a look at those after the break. Stay with us.
Can't you see? Little girl got a hold on me like glue. Baby, I'm howling for you. Throw the ball to the stick, swing and miss, and catch us mid-strike.
Hush now, child, and don't cry. Your folks might understand you by and by. Just move on up toward your destination. Though you may find from time to time complication.
And the race by Grins, we're down to the final 4, and the first of those is Hot and Treacherous. Maurice McKendry drives. He's driven over 3,300 winners here in New Zealand. His trial at Alexandra Park was good. He's probably lacking experience, if anything, against the big guns, Craig Thompson, but he certainly deserves his place.
Well, he's the young kid on the block, Matthew. He's one of 2 4-year-olds in the race, and he's probably, to be fair, 6 to 12 months away from being a real open-class horse. I think his career best run was when he ran 3rd in the Jewels behind BD Joe and Krug. He came from an awkward barrier draw that day. They put him aside. I thought his runs this time in have been very good. I think he's a great standing start horse. Mobile, he can leave quite quickly, but he's hindered by that barrier draw that he's got because he won't get across the inside ones here. And he is the lowest rated horse in the race, Matthew. I think his rating's 87. So I think he's a chance in the race, but he's $21. Everything would have to unfold perfectly for him. He was very good in the Summer Cup when he won at Alexandra Park, but he was in front that day. I just don't see it happening on Thursday.
The next of the North Island Brigade, Craig Thompson, is South Coast Arden. Brent Mangos trains. He drives this brute of an animal. The New Zealand free-for-all winner, the Jewels winner from last year, just keeps getting stronger and stronger. Barrier draw for him, Craig, on face value, probably doesn't look all that bad, but as Brittany Graham said earlier on, the positive out of that is the options that Brent has. No pressure on him to use an inside gate, and with Self Assured drawn to his outside.
Yeah, he's flying at the moment, Matthew. He is really going well. I mean, they took him down to Cambridge last week for a private trial, used a galloping pacemaker, gave him a nice run there. His lead-up runs have been very good. I mean, he's the only horse to beat Self Assured this year, and when he did it, he beat him in front. We saw him do that in the free-for-all through Cup Week. There was an exceptional run. This is him winning at Alexandra Park, so you can see him in front and Self Assured outside him, Hot and Treacherous in the 1-1 here. He looks beaten at the top of the lane here, Matthew, but this is what he does. He hits a flat spot, he gets back up off the canvas, and he comes back at Self Assured. He puts that big noggin back in front, and he gets there by a head at the line. He loves a dog fight. We saw in the Jewels, same barrier draw, Matthew, barrier 7 in the Jewels, barrier 7 in the race, that he can go forward and he can be competitive even if he has to sit outside the leader. I think Mangos will look across at the start and he'll just work it out as it unfolds. If Ultra Orlando gets out like we think and Spankem goes forward, I think he'll just progress, and maybe at the mile he may look to move and get outside them. I don't think he can wait too long though, Matt. I don't think he wants to sit back too far and let the race unfold, because you don't want to be 8 to 10 lengths off them and get to the winning post. You've got to be outside the leader for South Coast Arden to win. So he's in my top 3. I'd love Brett Mangos to win this race. I think he deserves it.
Craig, let's say Spankem crosses early. MacDan can't get across. Hot and Treacherous sort of posies up somewhere in the middle. Does Brent Mangos therefore just push the button, just go all in, thinking that Natalie Rasmussen would hand and be happy to sit on his back?
Well, I think that depends on what point of the race that happens, Matthew. If that happens at the 1400 as they go down the back straight and she happens to get there relatively early and he can get outside her, absolutely. I don't see it happen inside the last 1,000 metres. I think Mango needs to be at the bell outside the leader. If he can get there earlier, maybe the lead's there for him, because he is a bullish old brute, and Spankem's a lovely horse to sit in the trail with the speed it's got up the lane. So similar connections, Matthew. Anything is possible, but I don't think he'll be going back with South Coast Arden.
Okay, I think he's a great chance, and Brent Mangos has enjoyed so much success so far, and the team went out during the week to catch up with the big fellow by some beach somewhere.
Well, we're lucky enough to have a special star here with an interview. We've got Brent Mangos, the star, and his star, South Coast Arden, who's preparing for the race. How are things coming along?
Good, Nicole. You know, everything's falling into place, I hope. We haven't really had a hiccup. It's had a couple of 3 races back, and yeah, the last start was quite it was a hard run, so we decided to miss last Friday and just keep him ticking over here at home, and he'll go down to Cambridge on Thursday night and have a run between races, which I think will be ideal for him. It'll just sort of probably get adrenaline back going again and let him know what he's there. Let him know what he's there for the following week, I hope. But everything's good.
Talk me through his runs. He obviously had to sit parked last time out, and he never gave it away though, did he?
Yeah, no, it was a good run. It was the conditions of the track that night. It wasn't the best track. Not the club's fault, but we had that rain, and it was a good run to sit there and still stick on. When he was beaten by probably the best horse in the field, which had the run that suits him. So I certainly wasn't disappointed in his run.
Well, he had that preparation down south. Do you feel there's much change in him, much sort of maturity?
Yeah, he definitely has. He's a lot quieter around the farm, and he's a bit easier to work as well, at home. But yeah, I think probably mentally it's done him well and probably hardened him up, I think, as a racehorse for what's coming up this season.
Obviously, coming into it, confidence levels must be there because he's right up with the best, isn't he?
Yeah. I think with the right run, I'm sure he'll be competitive. But as I say, it's a good field, and it'll come down to the draws, I'm sure, because every horse in there deserves a start. So, the draws will be crucial, probably.
I wanted to ask you about when he first came into your stable, what your thoughts of him were. Did you always sort of get that inkling he would go on to good things?
He always gave me the impression he was always a good stayer, and he was a tough horse. We had to geld him sort of late 3-year-old. He got a bit too aggressive, but he's always had the ability. But it's whether they take that next step. Nicole, you don't really know until until you really start racing them. So and it was the racing that really brought him on to be probably where he is at the moment. He is a very tough racehorse.
His stats at Cambridge are phenomenal, Group 1 winner there. Talk me through the track. Obviously you as a driver, the race over the 2200 off the mobile. What kind of track is it like to drive on, Cambridge?
Yeah, Cambridge it's a good track. It's a very fast track on the markers. If it's dressed up properly, which I'm sure it will be. It can be leader bias track because good horses like this can run sectionals on the fence where other horses can run them, but you've got to get round them and get past them.
Exciting times for the industry, isn't it? And I guess for you yourself, being part of it?
Yeah, for sure. You're lucky. We only train 15 horses now, 10 horses, and to actually get one like this horse is a bonus because you're always in the classic races. So I think it's quite important. I think if it's a trainer's point of view, if you are lucky enough to have a horse like this, to have a horse in those races every week. So, yeah, we've been lucky there.
A couple of key notes to take out of that, Brent Mangos, suggesting Cambridge a track that if you're in front, it's very fast, awfully hard to get around. Take what you will out of that, but there could be just that little bit of an indication that B. Mangos won't be going back. He'll be taking his chances early. Self-assured, he is such a brilliant horse. He's really in the zone from what we've seen of him in his last couple of starts. He's a no-frills sort of horse. He's very fast. He can stay. He's tractable. He relaxes in his races. The only negative, Craig Thompson, is the barrier draw, and the only gate, barring probably one the second row, that Mark Purdon didn't want. He's going to have to call on everything that he's got to be taking out the feature.
Well, I think he needs a really solid tempo to win this race, Matthew, because if what he's going to do in the media, as he said, go back at the start, he's going to be probably 10 lengths off these leaders, whether it's an Ultra Orlando, a Spankem or a South Coast Arden. And it's a lot of ground to make up if you're a $2.40 favourite and trying to go round them. He needs a strong tempo. He needs probably a card into the race or to be outside the leader at the bell to win for me. But he is in the zone, Matthew. I don't think I've ever seen this horse go as good as what is he going at the moment. We saw this trial the other day where he was in front and he was too good for them. His races this time up have been great. He's had 5 runs this time in Matthew, 4 wins and a placing. He got beaten by South Coast Arden. He's only been beaten twice since October of last year. And in fact, he's only missed a place once since September of 2020. That's coming on a year and a half, Matthew. That's how good this horse is going at the moment. I thought he was peaking at the right time. I think he's in a very, very happy place. And he's winning from all over different journeys in different circumstances. And when I say that, he hasn't been winning in front. He hasn't been winning in the trail. He's had to either sit outside the leader or come from back in the field to win. This was an enormous performance because it was a horrible night at Auckland. It rained all night. They're running into a really strong wind, and he just powered over the top of South Coast Arden and BD Joe. So I think he can win the race. I just don't know how it's got to unfold for him to do that. I mean, Cambridge is such a quick track. We're talking about Brett Mangos and saying that it is a leader's bias track and they can run any sort of sectionals. You go back 3 or 4 months ago, Folklore was running 2:37 here, Matthew, and Folklore's no self-assured of South Coast Arden. This race is set up on a good night. Let's hope the weather is good. They could go 2:36, 2:35, an unheard of time around Cambridge Raceway. Self-assured is as good as he is. He just wouldn't want to be coming 3 wide to do it.
Brittany Graham, I want to bring you in here. You can tip winners and you can drive winners. Putting both of your hats on with a viewpoint to self-assured, what would you be doing if you were in the sulky? Do you just go back and hope that they go hell for leather up front and drive him cold like he is capable of doing? Or do you sort of try and posse up somewhere midfield? What would you be doing?
Well, I'm not sure you can hope in a $900,000 race, Matthew. It's going to be, well, luckily he's got Mark Purdon in the sulky and not me. We'll put it that way because I'm sure that he'll find a way. But in terms of his recent form, he's been fantastic, and showing that versatility has no doubt given his backers some confidence despite the barrier draw. I guess the 2 scenarios are he goes back at the start and he spots these fantastic horses, a big head start. And from what I've seen of Cambridge, that's incredibly hard to do. I go back to Jules Day and those horses that got back in the ruck, it was very hard for them to make an impression. But if he does press forward, then South Coast Arden has the options because he can, I guess, make it very hard for self-assured, and he might even push himself to the front. So it's going to be, from whatever scenario unfolds, it's going to be very tough for self-assured. In saying that, he's probably the one horse in the race that can overcome these obstacles, and he's in a fantastic mind space. But whether Mark Purdon, I noticed in that run last time, a couple of starts ago, he actually pushed South Coast Arden at the start and probably showed a little bit more gate speed than I expected from him. So does Mark push the button at the start and try and find a hole to slot into? I'm not sure, but luckily it's him, not me, put it that way.
Well, let's hear from the great man, Mark Purdon. He's probably the man that you want in the sulky in a high-pressure situation like this, self-assured. So for backers of that horse, you're in safe hands. Let's hear what he had to say midweek. Let's start away with self-assured, Mark, and we'll kick off talking about this very special horse. He seems to have really thrived since you've taken him north.
Yes, he has. Yeah, he had that sort of a break after Cup week here, and we worked him back up. But he'd always been a different horse, even just working up. He was back to his old self, and the trip north. He likes the Alexandra Parkway round, and he's just thrived.
I was about to say that he almost looks like he's matured even more.
Yeah, well, he has always been very comfortable that way round, but I think he's really enjoying the racing, and he's versatile. Like, he's come from the back, and he's been up handy, and he's just loving it.
Okay, since his most recent run, talk me through what you've been up to with him.
Since his trial on Friday, he's just obviously had the next day off and then a jog day, and he just hobbled quietly this morning up at Pukekohe there. So he's in a good place, and we'll just gradually increase his work as the week goes on.
With your sort of getting a guide going into the race, trying to work out a pathway, I guess it was hard without being able to have a race last week. So what did you go into the trial wanting? Were you sort of wanting to go as quick as what you did?
Yes, well, I wanted it to be like a race, because I thought, a trial would be just too kind to them, and got Australian horses coming across that have raced right up, or raced on Saturday night, so they're very fit, race fit, and I just felt they're doing so well at Pukekohe there that they need something that's stronger than a trial.
Okay, so about 2:38, and you seem to be going pretty comfortable towards the finish, is that fair?
Yes, yeah, he did it pretty well, really.
We're post the trial now. What do you kind of do in terms of leading up to it? Is it a case of just keeping them up to the mark? Was that trial enough for them?
Well, they're at that elite level where I think you've really got to keep the work up to them, and of course, it's a big stake race, and you don't want to be going into it underdone. So, we'll be keeping the work up to them and keeping them pretty fit.
And I'm sure you wouldn't be minding it if they went really hard up front and you were just able to posse up somewhere, because we spoke about his versatility coming from the back as well.
Yeah, well, let's hope it's a race like that too, because I think for the money they put up, it'll be good if it's a good spectacle and not a race where they dawdle around and sprint it home.
The concept for you, is it something that you're really looking forward to?
It is. There's a great vibe with it. There's been, good hype leading up to it, and I think, it's a new concept, but there's a buzz around it.
And you're happy with the horse that you'll be sitting behind on the night?
Yes, yeah, he's in a very good place, and if he does draw handy, he'll be the horse to beat.
He's a man that doesn't generally show too much emotion, Mark Purdon, but you just can't help but see that spark in his eye when he talks about good horses like Self Assured. He's got a task ahead of him drawn the outside of the gate, but we wish him all the best and thank him for sharing his time midweek. Majestic Cruiser is the final horse. He comes in here a couple of weeks ago, wouldn't have been thinking he'd be any show of making his way into the race, but with a disappointing scratching of Spellbound, he gets his start. For two of the young guns, Brittany Graham, Cameron Hart and Jason Grimson, two young men who certainly don't lack any confidence, and they'll be coming in here thinking they're half a show. I've got no doubt about that.
Well, they're quite the combination, Matt. They've really combined to do great things at Menangle recently. And I must say, maybe it's a parochial Australian in me, but I can't believe he's the outsider in this race. He is racing in phenomenal form at the present time. And I guess a lot of you Kiwis haven't seen a great deal of him, and his ascendancy through the grades in Australian harness racing has been quite remarkable in the last 6 to 12 months. But this is what he was able to do last time out. That's Ultra Orlando in front, and here's Stylish Memphis coming down the outside. And it was really driven outside of his comfort zone on this occasion. He settled back. They went steadily through the opening half of the race, and Cam Hart had to make a decision to put him into the contest. And when he did put him into the contest, it was at the fastest point of the contest. So I thought his run was excellent. And speaking to Jason Grimson, he said, and Cam Hart, they basically said, well, he was toying with them over the concluding stages. He ran a neck on Ultra Orlando and said, well, that's my job done. He is lethal off a set, and I think the extra trip, the 2200 metres, is going to suit him excellently well. He's 5 from 5 at Menangle over the 2,300 metres. He was fourth in a Miracle Mile when luckless, and this is how he qualified for the Miracle Mile when he chased home Spirit of St. Louis from a fence line position. What does Cam Hart do from the barrier draw? I think 2 or 9 were his perfect gates, to be honest, because he doesn't have to get involved early on. He's not one of those Aussie speedsters that likes to fly off the arm. I have a funny feeling Cam Hart will stay on the fence and back himself to get out of a precarious position when the whips are cracking. So I think he's a real danger, particularly if they run this race at a solid tempo like we assume they will. He's a definite top 4 chance, and he's absolutely flying. He's in fantastic form.
I liked his run last start, Brittany. I thought it was an enormous run because he was last a long way from home, looped him to sit parked out. Obviously beat Ultra Orlando, who's a lot shorter in the market, and also Stylish Memphis. I think the barrier draw actually plays into his favours because he'd drawn 4, 5, 6 or 7. He wouldn't have got across them anyway. This way he's going to take the short way home. And with only 9 now, there is no 2 the second row here, Matthew Cross. So he's got an advantage of following Stylish Memphis through and then coming off onto the back of Ultra Orlando if he doesn't want to sit through the fence. So I agree, $26 seems a little bit of overs.
Craig, you've got 9 horses to choose from. I need your top 4.
Yeah, I'm going Spankem on top. I like his preparation coming in. I like his barrier draw. We know he's a Miracle Mile one, and we know that he can use gate number 3. So I put him on top over South Coast Arden. I still think he's a major player in this race, Matt, even from his draw. I just think he's too good of a horse to sit back in the field. He'll go forward at some stage. He'll be put in the race, and he's a bullish type of animal. He'll be right there. Self-assured, really hindered by the draw. 240's too short for him. If he got out to $3, I'd look at him. And Ultra Orlando's absolutely the best value in the race. I think he can get as long as $12 in New Zealand. That seems a little bit of overs for a horse that should land at the top of the field.
Brittany Graham, what about for you in 4?
I'm with the same top 4 selections, just in a slightly different order, but I'm in agreement with Spankem. I'm in his team. I think that the barrier draw looked excellent for him, and Nat Rasmussen, I think that she'll make the right call when the decisions are to be made. His trials have been excellent in preparation for this. So I'm with Spankem to defeat Self-Assured, have so much respect for him and the fact that he'll probably find a way to be right there at the finish. Ultra Orlando is a great place bet for mine. He'll be on the fence, and we know how important that's to be, and he's certainly in great form himself. And South Coast Arden, I don't think the draw is as bad as it looks on paper. It gives Brent Mangos options, and he obviously loves Cambridge as well. But I'm with Spankem, the comeback kid, on top. It would be some sort of training performance to see him back at this elite level in this race.
I've gone South Coast Arden. I think Brent Mangos will push the button and keep pushing it, roll to the top, roll them along at a good clip and make it too hard for Self-Assured. He's a winning chance, no doubt, in a couple of scenarios, but if South Coast Arden finds the pegs, he's the horse I want to be on. Spankem's a good show and Stylish Memphis off the inside. You have to give the mare a chance. Craig Thompson, you've got $100 to spend. How would you be playing it?
Yeah, Matthew, I'm going around the way of Spankem to win. I think you're getting around that $4.80 to $5 mark. I'm quite happy with that price. He may move as we get closer to the race. I think the 3 obvious ones, the 3 we've talked about, the Spankems, the South Coast Ardens and Ultra Orlando, run a Quinella behind them. So Spankem on top, $20 Quinella with Ultra Orlando, South Coast Arden and Self-Assured.
Brittany Graham, $100 for you.
I'm also going to back Spankem straight out. I think 50 a win on him is a good way to start. Ultra Orlando, a place, I think is a good way to play also. He's going to get every opportunity to run into a drum. And that price for a Majestic Cruiser is a little too juicy for mine. So 10 each way if there's to be a blowout. I think it'll be his way.
Okay, I like your theory there around Majestic Cruiser. 50 to win South Coast Arden for mine, and a boxed Quinella, Spankem, South Coast Arden and Self-Assured. Gee, I'm looking forward to it Thursday night. Craig Thompson, we'll see you there.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Matthew. Let's hope the weather plays its part. Great initiative by the Cambridge Club and David Branch. Let's hope the walk-in crowd, of course, with the COVID restrictions, we can have people on crowd and the likes of the Christian Cullen days where they line the fence. So really looking forward to joining you and Brittany on Thursday.
Yeah, Brittany, safe travels to you, and we'll catch you on Thursday night as well.
Thanks, guys. Great to be joining you and cannot wait to get amongst it. Hopefully they let me in safely, and I'll see you there on Thursday night.
And we'll see you on Thursday night out of Cambridge for the inaugural running of the $900,000 Race by Grins.